Hey, everybody. It's Denise Roberts with Standing on Business. It has been a while, but I am back. But I'm excited. I'm excited to talk to you about access to capital. We got a special guest in Prince George's County, Maryland, that can show you the money. In the meantime, can you please go ahead and hit that like button and the subscribe button? And I'll be back in about 10 seconds. Okay, and we're back. One of the things that we know about, or one of the challenges that we know about small business, the biggest challenge oftentimes for small, especially minority businesses, is access to capital. And tonight we're hoping that we're going to solve your problems. So I'm going to be talking to the president and CEO of FSC First, which is the lending institution, the primary lending institution, especially when it comes to government contracting in Prince George's County, FSC First, Dawn Medley. And I'm going to bring up Dawn right now. Hey, Dawn.
Well, hey, good evening. How are you?
I'm good. How are you? How are you?
Doing fabulous.
So thank you. I'm so glad that we are finally here. And I want to just, get right to talking to the money. But before we do that, can you just kind of explain, who you are and, tell us about FSC First and what you do for the businesses?
Absolutely. Well, thank you first for having me. And I'm glad to have the opportunity to tell your viewers and followers about FSC First. We're a bit of a unicorn in the industry, kind of rare and hard to find, but thanks to you having us on tonight, will be less hard to find, hopefully. FSC First is actually a nonprofit small business lender. So we're different from banks. We're also a community development financial institution, or a CDFI, designated by U.S. Treasury, and also a certified development company, or a CDC, designated by SBA. And then that means we're able to do SBA loans. The CDFI designation helps us to expand as an economic development financial institution so that we have multiple diverse lending programs to financially assist businesses no matter what stage of growth or expansion they're in.
Okay, so you said a mouthful there. CDFI. Tell me what that means again, CDFI.
A community development financial institution.
Okay, so through that fund, what are the different types of businesses that are able to take advantage of the CDFI fund?
So being a CDFI means you have the ability to do mission-driven and community lending, right? Mm-hmm. So not just based on, what a, bank would normally worry about, right? Mm-hmm. Return or the interest rate. We lend based on the needs of the community, based on what businesses most likely are not able to have access to. As a CDFI, typically when a small business comes to us, it is their first real business loan or commercial loan, either because, they've been turned down by banks or they've not been successful in finding and accessing capital. Or they haven't been successful in accessing all that they need, right? Or they've been bootstrapping for a long time. They've been spending their own, it's on credit cards. They may have taken money out of their retirement. And so oftentimes we are the business's first opportunity to get a true commercial loan that isn't of their own resources.
Okay, so so let's back up a bit. Is FSC First is not a traditional bank, right?
Correct. Right.
So, can you kind of just delve into that just a little bit so that we first of all, we can't open up a bank account with you, correct?
That's correct. We're not a consumer or retail bank. All we do is small business lending. So if you're a small business, and let's talk about the word small, because it's small as defined by the SBA.
Okay.
So that is different depending on what business you're in. And so it's based on NACE code. And depending on your NACE code, SBA determines you small by either the number of employees or your annual revenue that you generate. That's not something someone who comes to apply to us needs to worry about. We'll figure that out for you. And if you're not deemed small, most likely you know it. You know you're not deemed small, and you probably can more easily get bank loans, but not in every case. Because sometimes what happens, it's your industry that sometimes make banks shy away from you. So maybe it's hospitality, or it's restaurants, or as you mentioned, government contracting. Those industries, they're not necessarily easy to fund, especially if you're just starting out. It's typically a little harder, but see, that's where CDFI comes in handy, because we have a lot of latitude and flexibility when it comes to the kinds of loans we can do and for the kinds of businesses. And so basically all kinds of businesses, as long as it's not, lewd, lascivious, or illegal, we can fund pretty much any small business.
Okay. Um, okay. Let's go into what it takes for a small business. And let me just ask this question, because you mentioned the different types of what industry your business in, based on the next codes, based on your size and revenue, and that's gross revenue, right? That's gross
Right.
receipts.
Yes.
So it does that also depend on the type of loan, the size of their business, based on SBA standards?
So yes, so we have 15 different loan products.
Okay.
2 of them, only 2 are SBA backed. So if you don't qualify by SBA standards, that's okay. We have another 13 different programs that
Okay.
we can find a way. And that's what we tell businesses: when you come to us, just apply. Let us figure out, based on your business type, your industry, how much funding you need and where
Mhm.
you are in your business. Are you a startup? Are you emerging? Are you trying to expand? Is it a franchise? Let us worry about what kind of funding is best suited for your business. And we always try
Mhm.
to put together a financing solution that's going to assist the business, not eat the business.
Mhm.
So we try to, it's right in the tagline, creative financing solutions, because we're trying to create a capital structure where the business has the opportunity not just to get cash, but the opportunity to grow. Some of these business loans out here online on the internet, the interest is so aggressive, and he immediately starts to eat the business before they can even figure out, the use, put the money to good use,
Mhm.
to figure out how to grow the business. And so
Mhm.
with our, array and diverse lending products, generally, if we can't find a way to yes, we've got some work to do, but that's okay,
Okay.
because FSC also provides technical assistance. So if you've got some work to do to prepare to borrow, and I always
Mhm.
tell business owners, prepare to borrow,
Mhm.
because once a lender sees you, they saw you, and it's no takebacks. It's like,
Okay.
well, I didn't mean for you to see that. You need
Yeah.
to present yourself in your business in the best light the first time around. So, but to get prepared for that, or if you're not sure if you're prepared, we have our Level Up program, which provides technical assistance. And it is that coaching and that training and that guidance that some businesses need to get their back office in order before they
Mhm.
actually make application to a loan. But let's just say you've made an application to us and there are some issues that we find need tightening up.
Mhm.
Because we're not a bank, Denise, we're able to go, okay, let's pause. We see that your business plan is missing a marketing strategy,
Okay.
or your business plan does not include pro forma financials. We can match you with a business coach to help you get those things sorted out. And
Mhm.
then you can come right back to us when you're ready to level up to a loan.
Do you have business coaches actually inside your offices?
We have them on retainer with us.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. That's awesome. Let's take another step back, Dawn, because you've been with FSC First for a really long time,
13 years.
and you are now the president and CEO, and you didn't start out there. Can you
No,
talk a little bit about that? Because I think it's amazing, and I want to say congratulations, even though it's been how long since
13.
you
Oh,
no
2 years as CEO.
2 years as CEO.
Yes.
Um, I love to see Black women rise to the top.
Thank
eh,
you.
and so I want to celebrate you and honor you with because that's a big feat. And so why don't you tell us a little bit about that journey as well?
Absolutely. So I didn't start in the finance or banking. I started my career actually in the medical field.
Mhm.
And yeah, um,
Okay.
and specifically, plastic surgery.
You were
But
a doctor?
no, 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 no.
Oh,
No, 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 no.
it's like, okay.
I just worked in the
That's strange.
no, there's no MD behind this name. There's no
Okay.
MD. Don't
Okay.
rely on me to save your life, okay?
Okay.
I can save your business, but not your life.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. We can work with that. We can work with that.
Right. But that didn't stick, and I found myself in finance, not long after dealing in the medical field. And what intrigued me about the kind of finance I was involved in is I really like the ability for a project just to come together, for the money to be structured all around it, and to see the project actually happen.
Mm,
So prior to coming to FSC 13 years ago, I was the director of business, neighborhood business works for the state of Maryland.
mhm,
And so I came there in '08. So that was a segue from traditional investment capital for businesses, working on the bank side or the investor side, to mission lending.
mhm.
And then I was actually recruited away from the state when the Prince George's County $50 million Economic Incentive Fund came about.
The infamous
Yes.
economic
So
EDI fund. Yes.
fun. And so I was recruited to be all things for that fund. I started as a
Mhm.
program manager for just that fund.
Right.
And I was the originator, I was the processor, I was the underwriter, I was
Got it.
asset management, I was loan servicing, I was all
Mhm,
things for that program. But
mhm.
it wasn't long before my predecessor realized that she could do a lot more things. And so it began.
Mhm.
I started to lead the loan administration team at FSC first, and then went from being program manager to vice president to senior vice president to CEO.
Okay. Okay. And how does it feel?
It's
When
surreal,
you first when
amazing at
you
the same time.
I'm sorry, go ahead. What,
Go ahead, go ahead.
I was just going to ask, when you first got into this seat, I mean, what what went through your mind?
Well, it's definitely a transition,
Mhm,
right? So, and it was a transition for everyone at the organization because, when you're promoted from within, first of all, there's support, and just being the biggest, cheerleaders for me, that was amazing. And that felt great. Also to have the confidence of the board of directors
mhm,
was also, very heartwarming. And I really wanted to make sure I didn't disappoint anyone. And I
mhm,
wanted to do a great job, not just for our internal customers, but for the business owners, because I've been am a business owner. I know what
okay.
they're going through. Yeah,
Yes.
I know what they're going through. And
Mhm.
I know what it is to, get up in the morning and wonder, how am I going to grow my business today? And
Yeah.
Do I have the resources? Do I have the capital to be able to do that? Do
Mhm.
I know what the next steps are? And that's where
Mhm.
that technical assistance is so important, because many businesses, I understand them wanting to own it all, but
Mhm.
what they sometimes neglect to do is to put an army around them so that they have the right team around them, because they may not know everything. They may have some blind spots,
Mhm.
and some they don't even recognize. And that's probably one thing I would encourage businesses to do, to make sure you
Mhm.
have a team around you, and especially a strong financial team. I know
Okay.
you want to save money, but you've got to have a tax preparer or accountant.
Oh,
You
yes.
need a bookkeeper at a minimum,
Mhm.
preferably an accountant, to
Do
watch.
you find many, I mean, because it feels like we've been saying these same things for years,
Yes.
over a decade. Are you finding small business owners still not realizing that they need someone who has an expertise in finances, accounting, CPA, really? I mean,
Yes. Every day, Denise. Every day.
Mm,
There isn't, we can't go more than 3 packages before there's a package that we receive where the financial statements are
mhm,
inadequate or non existent.
okay.
Um, and when you say, do you have an accountant or at least a bookkeeper that could give us a full set of financials? And
Mhm,
that's really where a lot of businesses missed out during the pandemic, because then when it was time to hurry up and submit
mhm,
evidence that you are an ongoing business concern and these are the financials to back it up, to get
mhm,
all the capital that was flying around and grants, many businesses were not prepared. And that's how Level Up
mhm,
was born, because
mhm,
we were like, it was so disheartening how many businesses missed out on getting that access to capital while it was free, while it was a
mhm,
grant, because they just were not prepared. They didn't have tax returns done for the past 3 years.
mhm,
They couldn't go into QuickBooks, push a button, and generate current financial statements for the year they were in.
mhm,
They get so involved in the actual doing of the business, they neglect the financial house. And yes, you're right. We say this constantly, but it's the same issue. It is the number one reason. I won't say we deny. We may have to delay an
mhm,
application because we can get them the help to get it done.
yeah. Mhm,
It is the number one reason we have to delay an
mhm.
application, because their financial statements are not in order.
What exactly goes into a loan application package?
So we try to make it easy. So we have an online portal that you can go in and out of, and do it at your own pace. Because save your application as you go. Call us if you have a question. Hey, I'm on this page. Is ask me this. I don't understand what is
Mhm,
asking me for, and so we can
mhm.
talk you through it. Our business development team, our vice president of business development, Stu Smith, also known as the Money Man,
Okay.
and
Money
Chris
man.
Godfrey, our business development officer, can
Mhm,
actually, walk you through it if you need
mhm,
that, you get
mhm,
stuck. But you will need to have your financial statements and or
mhm.
tax returns filed. And I realize
And or.
and or
So you don't necessarily have to have your financial statements.
that's correct. We can use a tax return. We can use
Okay.
tax return, but it
Uh,
can't be nothing. So,
okay.
give an
Mhm,
example. If you have not filed your 2024, or you have an extension, if you haven't filed it, you have to show us an extension.
okay.
If you have an extension, that means we're now in June, and you're going to need to produce an interim financial statement for what
Mhm.
you've done so far in 2025.
Okay.
So in most cases, a tax return's okay, but if we're well into the following tax year, we're going to need an interim financial statement to show
Okay.
us how you've been doing so far
Mhm.
this year.
Okay.
And then you will also need to show that you are in good standing with the state, so that you are authorized to do business in the state. And if I
Mhm.
go into the SDAT website, it's going to say ABC Business LLC is in good standing with the state.
Mhm. Mhm. How thick is a package?
It's not thick at all because it's digital.
Okay.
So, but 3 years of tax returns, that's a
Okay.
substantial amount of paper because we need
Okay.
all the schedules. Don't just give
Okay.
us the 2 pages, the 1040, and then the signature page. We need all
Mm-hmm.
the schedules that go with it. 1040 Schedule C if you are following that way. If you're an S corp or a C corp, you're going to give us those kinds of tax returns, but all the pages.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Depending on if you're giving me tax returns or financial statements, I would need both or either
Mm-hmm.
financial statements. SStat verification, that's just a screenshot. If you are trying to purchase property, you're going to need to provide a purchase contract.
Mm-hmm.
And while I'm on that, getting a business loan is not the same as getting a house loan. So
Okay.
talk to us before you write a contract on a commercial property and then
Okay.
come to us expecting us to fund it in 30 days. Commercial does not happen in 30 days. You
How
need
old?
you need to expect at least 90 days because
Okay.
built into that commercial contract, you're going to want to have a financing contingency. You're going to have a feasibility study time period. And an appraisal contingency as well. All those
Mm-hmm.
things are part of it. And all that takes up gaps of time. You can't do all that in 30 days. You can't do that in 45 days. And
So I
especially,
can't just say, I want to go buy an office building so that I can make some money leasing out office space
mhm,
to other businesses. And
that's considered passive, Denise.
what does
That is
that mean? What
okay.
does
So
that mean?
that is the SBA actually does not permit that. That's a passive business. If you are not owning and operating in the space by at least 51%, by at least
Okay.
51% of the space. So it's not
Uh-huh.
that you can't do any leasing.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
Things must apply.
Mm-hmm.
At least 51% of that building has got to be you
Mm-hmm.
occupying when it comes to
Okay.
square footage, 51% of square footage.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Um,
Okay.
and to repay the loan has to be from the revenue of the business, not the revenue of your leases. That's how SBA. That's the only way SBA will allow the scenario you're talking about.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if we're not using SBA, then we
Mm-hmm.
have more latitude,
Okay.
and then it's kind of like a case by case basis. We would
Mm-hmm.
look at that. Not
Okay.
impossible, but not SBA unless
Okay.
we cover the two bases I spoke about.
Okay. Hmm.
So go back.
And-
You can purchase your building. So I said you need a purchase contract. What if you're leasing? Then we just need a lease. And again, make sure your lease is going to be for the same term as your loan. Well,
Mm-hmm.
how will you know that? You need to talk to us first.
Mm-hmm.
What you can do with your landlord or potential landlord is get an LOI, a letter of intent,
Mm-hmm.
so that you're not locked in, but you demonstrated to the landlord, I'm getting financing. Here's my proposed lease term. And once I get my commitment from my lender, you'll see that I'm going to be able to meet those lease terms. So that way, if we get your package and we say, we're going to get your payments down really low. And so we need you to do a 10-year lease because with a 10-year term, I get your payments really low. Now you're not locked into a lease. You're just on an LOI. Now you can go back to landlord and say, hey, I have my financing, but it's contingent upon me getting a 10-year lease. And you can do things like get a 5-year term with 1 5-year renewal. That will satisfy the 10-year term requirement.
That's interesting how you can do it with a 10-year lease, but you don't have to be a 10-year lease.
Right. Because I realize that's scary, right?
Yeah.
That's scary for a new business to get all the way locked in
Yeah.
to 10 years, especially if it's their first commercial space. So a 5-year lease with a 1 5-year renewable option satisfies the requirement that the lease run along the same term as, the loan. Non-SBA. SBA is a little more stringent. SBA has a lot of rules, but you get an amazing rate. Like right
Okay.
now, to purchase property, SBA, it's like 6.3%.
And
So
what is it normally?
normally, if let's say you could just get the whole thing from a bank, it's going to be 6.5 to 7, depending again on the strength of your business, the
Right.
value of the commercial property, where it's located, all those things related to real estate.
What if I'm a new business?
Yes.
Or, yeah. What if
How
I'm a
many?
new business
So,
and I don't have the years?
let's talk about that.
Is that possible?
So, a new business is defined as a business that 2 years or younger. Some banks say 3 years or younger. But we would consider you a startup if you're 2 years or younger. And so, you may have a little bit of a track record, but it's not very long. That's okay. This is where your financials are so important. And that you have filed tax returns for those 2 years you have been in business, because you're going to need to provide projected or pro forma financial statements. So we're going to have you look into the future based on the kind of business you are in and how you've done for the past 2 years and how the loan is going to help you grow that business. We can use projected financials, and now we're going to weigh those against reality. So it is important that those projections are based in what's really going on in the industry.
Okay.
And if I were to say, okay, I said earlier that financials is the number one reason we see a delay in an application. I would say projected financials probably rises to the top of those financials that may have an issue. And that's okay. If you have an issue, you don't know where to begin with, pro forma, projected, we can put you with a business coach who can help you do that.
And how much does credit weigh into this situation? Because,
we are going to run credit. And different from a bank, we're not looking for a score. We're looking for fiscal responsibility. That, your credit report shows I generally pay my bills.
Okay.
Right? Now, we understand that life happens. It can come at you quick sometimes. It could be an aged parent, a medical problem, a divorce. So we understand that your credit may not be perfect. There may be some, blips of, life coming at you. But as long as it shows, that pretty much after the blip, you kind of was getting it back together, we can still do financing for you. We're not looking for the perfect score, the perfect credit history. We're looking at the business's ability to cover the loan.
We've got a question here, if you don't mind. What's the maximum loan amount for a startup business?
Great question. 100,000. Maximum of 100,000.
But is that different if it's in real estate?
Good question. So if it's a real estate purchase and you are a startup, we can go higher than that, right? Because it's going to be the value of the real estate plus the business's ability to repay the loan. So so obviously a piece of real estate, you have to be $500,000. So that weighs, that's significant importance in the loan package. That real estate is kind of leading with that. And we just segue back to a second to the rest of the package. Maybe you just want to purchase equipment or machinery, or you need money for inventory, or payroll. So we would just have to, in the package, provide evidence to us for what you need the money for.
Okay.
That will be part of your package as well.
Okay. Let's shift gears a little bit because we're under a new administration. Lots of changes have been happening in the country, in the federal government. And I know the state of Maryland is kind of,
it's all over.
Budgetary, yeah, we're hurting just a little bit, our county is hurting financially. It's like, yeah. And it's not just us. It is not just the state of Maryland. It's not just Prince George's County. It's happening in DC. I don't know what's going on with Virginia, but I mean, we're not in the best place, but we're doing okay. We're trying to stay afloat. What have you seen in terms of the impacts on small businesses that come from what's going on in, DC with the change of administration?
Yeah, it is. I mean, I talk to CDFIs and CDCs across the country, and
Mm-hmm.
it's a little precarious out there.
Mm-hmm.
But one thing we've learned collectively as community development financial institutions is that you've got to be ready to pivot.
Yep.
Right? You've got to be able to diversify. You have to be nimble. You've got to be flexible. CDFIs can do that. We have found that some banks are really starting to adjust the industries that that they're willing to fund. So if it's if your business is government backed, government contracted, or government aligned, you may find a little bit business banks backing away from those things. But some community banks have actually leaned into it. They've been expanding their lines of credit that some of the businesses have already had, making them larger, giving them some breathing room. That community banks are really good for that. And they're also for businesses that may be reliant upon the presence of or impacted by the lack of presence of federal workers. So what you should know is that FSC is still lending because, we have government backed programs, or should I say had, and some of them are no more. But my team is always asking me, why do we have so many programs? We have to, we have so many stakeholders to answer to. This is why, because you have to stay ready to pivot if
That's
you
awesome.
need to. And as a result, because we're always looking for programs that we can do, we still have many programs to help the businesses who need our help. Now they understand why. So when programs get cut, we still can find ways to deliver for our businesses. And I would give the same advice for small business now. Now, if you're a government contractor, there's some hurt out there, but we're also retraining or making retraining available to federal workers who have been displaced or furloughed or, fired, to maybe they want to try their hand at entrepreneurship. And so this summer, we're going to have a workshop series on, transitioning your skills from being a federal worker to be an entrepreneur. What is that? How do you need to prepare to start a business? How do you translate what you've been doing for someone else for decades into doing it for yourself?
Right. Yes.
And be able to sell and market those skills as a product or service. So you'll be seeing that come out soon. Where we've been doing some federal worker expos around the county and providing a business startup package, but we'll do a deep dive in the workshops on how to really get a business started when you're transitioning from working for someone else, not just the federal government, but transitioning from working for anyone else.
Okay. Well, something that I haven't, I'm sorry, go ahead.
That your side hustle becomes your main hustle.
That's right. Your side piece becomes your main piece.
Exactly.
We're not talking brown sugar tonight, though. But and I just wanted to also touch on government contracts, especially with Prince George's County, because I know that FSC First is able to help businesses who are trying to win contracts with the county. What does that look like for?
So we can help fund businesses who may be working on or have received government contracts, Prince George's County or otherwise. Starting July, we will have a line of credit program. First time we're doing this, a line of credit up to $100,000 to help either existing businesses with government contracts get over this little hump till they have a chance to pivot and start getting contracts from private industry for what they used to do for the feds, or new businesses who have a need for a line of credit. Because sometimes a lump sum of money is not the answer, right? Because when you get a lump sum of money, you got to start paying principal and interest on it. Sometimes you just need a line of credit so that when you need to make payroll, it's there. You can access it when you need it.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So when you get a line of credit, you don't have to worry about it until you start drawing on it.
That's right. It'll just sit there waiting for you.
Mhm. So these are the different ways that businesses can get access to capital. Um, do you see any other challenges other than access to capital that small businesses are facing right now? And what advice would you give to them?
So I would say that one challenge that we're finding is the availability of square footage for purchase. Many businesses who've been in leases for a long time, the landlord isn't necessarily going to sell just because you want to buy.
Mhm.
So, we work closely with local brokers and with EDC, the Economic Development Corporation, to help us find space
Mhm.
for businesses who want to purchase their real estate. Interest rates, of course, they're higher than they were 5 years ago, but they're coming down and
Mhm.
they're a lot more reasonable. I
Okay.
mean, 3%, that's gone.
Yeah.
So this is our new reality.
Just forget it. Get that out of your head because it's not coming. It's not
Yeah,
here.
no, that's it.
Yeah.
So being able to help businesses find that permanent space that they can purchase
Mm.
has been a bit of a challenge.
Okay.
Not quite enough square footage available in the immediate region for purchase, because
Mhm.
sometimes they don't need 30,000 square feet.
Right.
They need 20 or
Mhm.
15, sometimes
Mhm.
even 5.
Mhm.
The other challenge, again, they have is always related to that back office.
Mhm.
Is businesses, when they approach us, they always want to ask for the least amount that they need. That's not what you should do. You should
Mm.
ask for everything that you need and add
And
20%.
then some. And then some.
That's the and then some.
Yeah.
Because you really can underfund yourself.
Mhm.
And then you end up having to, you're kind of right back in the same situation a few months later. We
Mhm.
rather address the whole holistically, address it holistically,
Mhm.
so that we're looking into the future for a few years so that the business has a chance to get to stabilization so they can get to generating significant revenue.
Okay.
And for business owners to be able to pay themselves.
Yes.
So many of them aren't doing that. So that's a challenge.
That is something that we don't necessarily, I mean, we talk about it, but I know that because I'm an entrepreneur and I don't know, I'm kind of a one person with, maybe some contractors or vendors or something like that, but we probably find more so than not people who aren't paying themselves. And if they're not paying themselves, how are they paying their bills? Or is it really just a side business? And
Right.
and sometimes if you're not going to get to the point where you can pay yourself, you can say it's not really a business, right? Because
It's at that point, if you're not paying yourself, it's barely a side hustle. It's more like a hobby.
yeah.
Um, and go ahead.
So how much would you say? How do you figure out how much to pay yourself?
So generally, if your business now in the first year of not paying yourself, maybe in the first 2 years,
Mhm.
not paying yourself, that can be understandable. But even when we get a startup business's financial statements, if there is no line item to pay the owner needs to be part of that payroll scenario. We're going to stop and have a serious discussion with them, because that is saying side hustle to us.
Okay.
This
And
business
you
has got
don't
to
fund,
pay its
so let's
loan.
be clear, you don't fund side hustles.
We don't like to fund side hustles, do
Okay.
we? Of course, because
Okay.
we realize that again, going back to scary,
Mhm.
it's a scary transition time to leave full time, guaranteed,
Yeah.
income to
Mhm.
doing the business. So if you are still have a job, you're going to have to demonstrate to us who is going to be lead operator in that
Mhm.
business. Again, the
Mhm.
team around you. If
Mhm.
you're not the key person, who is? Who's on your management team? Who's going to be, the manager on site? Who is leading that team when you're away from there? And we're going to look at their resume, make sure they're qualified to run this business for you that we're funding. So it's not that if you have a job, you can't get a loan from FSC. That's not true. But we're going to look at the team around you to understand, who is running that business and are they qualified to do so?
Okay. Listen, Dawn, it's been so great to talk to you and learn about all of these things. This is really good information. It was also really good seeing you at the Preakness. So what did you think about the Preakness?
I love the fashion. Love the fashion.
Was that your first time there?
No, second time.
Okay. It was my first time. I'm in love. I'm sold.
It's a good time.
Yeah.
It's a good time. Shout out to Engine for having us as a guest.
Shout out to Engine.
Yes.
Yes. So I'm so glad. This is really, really good information. I learned some new little nuggets also. So thank you for being with us today and talking to me about all the things that FSC has available to small businesses. If people want to find out more, where should they go?
It's real easy. Just go to our website at fscfirst.com, all one word, fscfirst.com. Also, you can find us on all the social media platforms, like and follow, sign up for our newsletter on the website. It'll do a little pop-up once you go there. And that way you can find out about all our loan programs that we're rolling out. We spotlight them. And we also put success stories out there from other business owners that are just like yours.
All right. Thanks again, Dawn. And we'll be talking to you sometime later in the future. See if you got anything new to let people know about. Okay. And we'll look out for the information for the program that's going to be coming out for federal workers and how to turn their skills into a business. I love that. I love that. Thanks again.
Thank you for having me.
Okay. All right. And that's our show for today. But you know what? I would like to know what you guys think about this video. Did this information help you in any way? What are your thoughts? Please leave a comment in the comment section below. Don't forget to like this video and hit the subscribe button. And I will see you on the next one. Love you.